Hello, this is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is September 3rd, 2024. I'm back. I was gone a week to Europe. I had a fantastic time. Now that I'm back, I'm energized and ready to go. I want to talk about the U.S. government policy on voting and election laws for the presidential election. I wanted to make some changes to the podcast and maybe I listened to some of the feedback that some of the folks have given me. The main thing that I want to focus on, why is this important to you? To you personally, when you are deciding who to vote for and why to vote for them. And also, in this case, with voting, we keep getting told that there is voter suppression, there's all these issues with voting, and we're also being told that people do not want to show ID and that they feel suppressed or oppositional if they're told to do that. So I looked it up like I always do. And the first thing I want to talk about is voter ID requirements. Now, I want to start with Illinois since most of my listeners so far live in Missouri and Illinois. With a little story. Here's the story. So, did you know that if you move and it's around election time and you want to go and vote at the old place of voting, that you can't really do that for the presidential election? Why? Because they verify you not with voter some kind of ID. They actually are looking at you based on where you live at. So if you're in a new district, right? Okay, so they give you something called a provisional ballot, which you probably already know about, but just in case you don't, provisional ballots for a president, you can vote, but did you also know that they do not have to count that ballot? Now, when I was there, they didn't mention that I needed to come back and verify my address. I could have done that. They didn't. They didn't say a word. So probably when I voted for president that year, my ballot was not counted. So that's good information to know in general that the polling places sometimes don't tell you everything. But the voter ID requirements has been an issue in the country supposedly for at least 10 years. I'm focusing on that because do you really think that there is a huge issue with voter ID requirements? I'm going to tell you that it's not true. It's in probably 6 states that people are concerned about it. It's not the whole country. Now, in some states, they do make you like, I think, say like Vermont. The first time that you go and vote, they make you show some type of ID. Now, let's differentiate between photo ID and then having to prove that you live at that residence. Those are two different things, and I think that we get bogged down into not knowing the difference in the state and then somebody bringing it all together and making it into a big deal, and then they say that it's in the whole country. Now, when you come to a state, You have to go to the courthouse in most states and then you register. Okay, so we all know that. The reason that this is being made into a big deal is actually over something called photo ID, which I mentioned a second ago. There are two or three states, one of them being Georgia, where for whatever reason, the people in the state complain that their vote is suppressed when they have to show photo ID. And so that turned into it being a national problem when it is not. Here's another example. If you're in Wyoming, you do not have to show a photo ID. And when the conversation is framed, they make it look like it's a race issue and that somehow if you have to show a photo ID, you are suppressing the vote of low income people because they can't get ID cards. That's what it turned into. Two elections ago, that's all that the media would talk about is that. There was a governor's election in Georgia. It's probably been a decade ago when Stacey Abrams was running. That's what they were trying to say that the vote was suppressed because people had to show a photo ID and somehow they shouldn't have had to show it. Now, what they didn't tell you is that in some of the precincts, some of the polling places will let you show a utility bill, bank statements, government checks, paycheck stubs, and all of that. So what I'm really telling you is that it's not a huge problem like they were talking about. But in this presidential election, it's going to be an issue because in the states that the race is close, they are going to frame it to race, or they're going to frame it to people being turned away or suppress their votes. So I'm here to warn you about that, to not take that seriously, because most states do a good law at telling people beforehand how they can vote and giving them the time to get photo IDs or to bring information so that they can vote. The last piece that I want to talk about is mail-in ballots. During a close presidential election, I am predicting that on election night, we are not going to know who the president is. Why? Because this time period, say from January 2023 until now, states have been pushing the mail-in ballots, and they are being sent out. I got one, and I think I told you in the previous podcast, I was surprised at how easy in Illinois they were making it to vote. All I have to do is fill out the ballot, which they would send me, and also told you that they said that they would send me a ballot indefinitely if I checked off that I just wanted them to send me ballots in the mail. I would say by November 8th, there is going to be a lot of issues with these mail-in ballots because both sides are going to claim that they shouldn't be legal. that you can't trust the results, and I think it's going to explode into a major issue in the country. Now, it's still it's still pockets of places. I predict Georgia. I predict Pennsylvania and Michigan. And then you're going to see some court cases start because they're going to say that the vote was suppressed because people had to show photo ID or that they weren't given time to prepare to vote. In the presidential election, this is what's not being talked about by any of the news agencies. That's why I'm here. I want you to know that we need to be engaged on things like this so that we can counter what the other side is going to tell us that they think is illegal when people, voters, are given time to prepare to do things. And we're also going to learn that the mail-in ballots moving forward after this election are going to be a hot topic because they're not going to trust it. The people are not going to trust it in a close election. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Please give me your feedback. Do you think that voting and ballots and mail-in ballots are going to be an issue this time around? Have a good day.